I started thinking of this infinite seat theater concept and I presented this at Podfest at 2020 in Origins. And it was very well received. And it's this concept that I could have a small space. I don't need a big auditorium or a theater space. But if I could have room for like 40 people, and in that room, I was surrounded by cameras that could live stream to people all over the world. In theory, this little 40-seat theater has the same capacity as Madison Square Garden.
Step into the world of success with Your Brand Amplified, the ultimate podcast designed to unravel the intricacies of thriving businesses. I'm your host, Annika Jackson, and I'm on a mission to uncover the stories, strategies, and secrets that have propelled entrepreneurs and business leaders to success. It's a really good thing that we have a few minutes before we actually press record, because otherwise, Jeff Revilla of Paduti, I would have gotten all of the things pronounced incorrectly. So,
I'm a mystery.
Yes, a mystery. I've been looking forward to having you on the show. The day is finally here. Thank you for being on Your Brand Amplified.
Yeah, well, I think I have to thank you too. I got injured on Memorial Day and my schedule was very chaotic, and I think I had to move some dates around, and then I think you were on vacation for a while, and so I'm grateful that we're able to make this happen finally.
Yes.
Finally tonight.
We're here. Yay. We're here. So Jeff, you are a master of many things: entrepreneur, theater, live venue, right? Digital marketer, podcaster, event producer, so many things. And I love them all because I do think they're very interconnected. I started out my career throwing parties and events at nightclubs. So,
I've met a lot of people. There's two groups of people that I meet a lot as an adult marketer. People who did early on a young, very entrepreneurial mindset, that event planning for clubs and bars. That's a very tough business. And so I meet a lot of people who got their start there. And there's a lot of people that are skateboarders. Skateboarders tend to be drawn into marketing and the creative side of business. And so I meet so many people I meet were either former skateboarders or like these event producers for clubs and bars. It's pretty amazing, the pool of company that I keep.
Interesting. I love that. And also former theater geeks. I'm one of those. And so where did you get your start?
I just fell in love with podcasting early on. I did have a skate shop in 2002 to 2008, and I had mail order. And I was there 8 days a week, really. 24 hours a day. I was there all the time, just packing orders, shipping stuff out. And around like 2007, I actually got my first iPod. It's engraved on the back from, Happy Father's Day, 2007. And I was sitting there packing orders and shipping skateboards all over the world. And I'm listening to things like Joseph Jaffe had a podcast, and Marketing Over Coffee, and the Beancast. And while I'm doing this, even though I went to college didn't teach you about marketing and being online and in the year 1999 and 2000. There was no education for what the internet was going to be. But while I'm building my business, I realized that podcasting has given me another education, a free education. I just have to listen to what these experts are saying and apply it to my business. And I just had 6, 7, 8 years of continuous growth, mostly because I was listening to podcasts in the background.
Wow. Yeah. It's funny, the power of podcasts. I listen to a lot of podcasts that are about different topics, some more fun and fantastical and some more business oriented. But I did have a couple of guests come on today's recording day for me. And one just started a new business and said he's been listening to get a lot of advice on his new business venture from my guests. And I'm like, yes, this is what I love to hear. And it's the same way that you and I use podcasts when we're listening to them.
Yeah. And I just fell in love that you could create something, you could put it out in the world, you own it, you're not answering to anybody. It was like this Wild West. And I started dabbling and started recording, and I was never a fan of my voice. I didn't like being on camera. I didn't like hearing myself. I was like, ugh, And then I just realized that like no one's thinking about me the way I think about me. No one cares. It's kind of like, that's the saying that I say, that people want to get their kids to soccer practice. They want to pay their bills. If for whatever reason they chose to listen to me, then I only owe it to them to provide the best half hour that I can give them. Whether or not I think I sound great or, like, oh, they hear my voice again, that's not my problem. They chose my podcast. And that was very freeing for me around like 2015. That's when I launched my trivia show. And it was so liberating to just be like, I could have fun and I could do this as an activity. I could go to back then I go in my basement, just start recording with, guests from around the world. We'd battle it out over rounds of trivia. And we just had a great time. And it got better and better. And we grew and we grew. And eventually, we started producing that show for television. And it all because I got over that hang up. I knew what podcasting was, but I was like, I don't fit into that world. I don't have a radio voice. I don't have that kind of structure or talent. And I got over it. And that's really what made me go headfirst into podcasting around 2015.
Wow. Well, you've been in it for quite a while, longer than most, longer than myself, certainly. And you do have a great voice for this.
It's gotten better. I mean, I've practiced over the years, so I didn't sound like this in 2015. I understand about microphone technique, and I know a little bit more, and I have levels on and compressors, and I'm enhancing my voice a little bit, but I'm enjoying it now, and I get feedback, and I'm able to finally accept it and be like, I appreciate it. Some people tell me they listen to my shows to fall asleep, which I don't know if that's a compliment, but it's if they can feel safe and they hear my voice and it's soothing for whatever reason, it's very flattering to hear those kind of compliments now. I'm appreciative of each and every one. I'm still a little hesitant, but I really appreciate when I hear the feedback.
So you had a skateboard shop. You started listening to podcasts. You decided to start a podcast. Your shop closed at some point, or that business closed. What was next for you? At what point did you say podcasting also can be part of a business, not just a fun activity I do?
Yeah, at the time, I was maybe 28, 30 years old, and I had majorly invested into the manufacturing part of skateboarding. And that was like 2006. By the time I got the wood shop up and running, that was like early 2007. I didn't know what a housing crisis was, but right around when I got towards the end of 2007, as I get this thing up and running full steam ahead, I noticed my sales start dropping 30% a month for 6 consecutive months. Like the bottom just dropped out of the business. And I was like, ugh, that's not so good. So like I put the keys in the door and I walked away, sold off all the assets and everything. I was done. Like it really wiped me out. But what I realized from listening to podcasts, from running my own business, I got started early 2001, 2002. I built a social network at that time. I built a messaging platform. I was making video content for YouTube back then. There's still blank skate videos you can find online. They're funny. I was doing Google AdWords. Always hear Gary Vee talking about buying AdWords for a nickel. Well, I was buying skateboarding AdWords for a nickel in 2002. So over these 6-7 years where I was running the shop, I developed a particular set of skills, not to quote Liam Neeson, but I developed a set of skills that was very valuable in the market. So when the doors closed, I went to 2 interviews in my whole life after I closed my skate shop. One was at a media company, and I went in with a pitch deck and I said, hey, here's what you're doing. Here's what I do. I think this is what you need. And I pitched them. And then on the way home, they called me back and said, turn around, come back. We want to hire you. I was like, great. So I knew I had something special because of that education I was getting from podcasting and running my own business. That was something that I got that I didn't get from college. College gave me the foundation to grow, but that period of my life was perfectly placed so that I could serve businesses going on. And then after about a year at the media company, there was a auto dealership, 10 franchises. Same thing. I had my move, right? I'd go in with a pitch deck. This is what I can do. This is what you do. I think together we can do this. Called me on the way home. Hey, come back. We want to hire you. I was like, all right, this is so easy. And so I've been there for 15 years as their marketing director.
Wow.
And just celebrated 15 years middle of the last month. And it's because of that. It was really because of podcasting has given me so much.
Well, that's really amazing. How did you decide to start a trivia podcast?
It was another podcast out there called Good Job Brain. And at the time, Good Job Brain was kind of going through some changes. They were growing up, starting families, and graduating from college and getting real jobs. So they didn't become as consistent. And I was like, man, I really love this show. I want to keep something going just as a fan, not to copy their format, but so I started this concept that was called Stuff I Never Knew. And it was almost a blueprint of Good Job Brain. It was supposed to be 4 people sitting around telling a story about a themed subject. So it was like episode 1 could be stuff I never knew about apples, or stuff I never knew about cars. And the 4 of us would each come to the show preparing a different segment for the show about that topic, which was exactly Good Job Brain. But then at that time I had 2 children. I still do. I still have both of them. And I realized I didn't have 4 friends anymore. I don't have. I'm a father now. I've been married for 15 years. I don't have any friends, so I had to do this virtually. And at the time, the internet's kind of divided at 2015 into people who know about the platform Blab and those who never heard of Blab. So if you ever run across somebody who knows Blab, this website holds this place in our heart that nothing has replaced it since. And anybody who was a Blabber will talk about Blab nonstop forever. But it was the first 4 in the box live streaming service. And it had the social element that when you went live, it would just flood your room with other people who were on the platform. So you go live, hey, Jeff's live, boosh, all these people would pop into your room. And so I was like, well, we could make this into a game. Let's have some fun. And I would do like a tournament of trivia every night. It was 8 players, and we'd go down to 4, go down to 2, and then we'd have our finalists. And I was hooked. I was in love with this platform. I was in love with everything about podcasting because it would record the video. You could download the video, and I would take the video export it as the MP3 file for the podcast. And I was like, this is so amazing. This technology is blowing my mind. I'm connected with the world, and nothing could go wrong except
famous last words.
Except Blab didn't have a business model. Oh. It was just growing so rapidly. And by 2016, it just collapsed under its own weight. 2017, maybe early 2017. It had no way to make money, and it was just growing and growing and growing. And they closed down like one day, like, hey, we're done. And so for years, a lot of us were, wandering the internet, trying to find a platform that was similar to Blab, but nothing has ever placed it. There was like Appear In and Google Hangouts at the time, and Hop In, and all these other ones that just weren't like Blab, or they didn't offer, like there were some other places you could go to like do video, but it wasn't like Blab, and still that they haven't found anything quite like it. But that void like kind of propelled me, like, okay, well, if I can't go to Blab and Blab bring people to me, what if I go out to the people? And so I started thinking this, like, okay, well, how about if I could create like this little theater in my car that I could just set up anywhere? And it was like theater in a car. I had speakers, some mic stands. I had a podium for some reason. I carried a podium, a mixer, and I could go anywhere and I could set things up. And I did a couple shows like that, just fun. I thought maybe I could do them in people's basements, like a raging kegger party at a college frat house or something, or a bar mitzvah. I don't know. Like I could set up and do trivia. I could do a podcast anywhere, at a park, at one of those pavilions that look like a clamshell, or along a walking trail near a river, which would probably scare people. But so I kept wanting to do that. And at the time, a friend of mine was opening a coffee shop. He's like, hey, you got this little theater space, come out to our parking lot, set up and do a show. And it went really well. I had a really great time. And he's like, well, I have another place I want to do a show. And why don't we book it? We'll do tacos. It'll be $10. We'll sell tacos and drinks, and we'll have just a whole night of trivia, and you can record your episodes. I said, oh, that sounds good. And we booked it for March 30th, 2020. And this was going to be my first live show in like a theater space. And we're about 2 weeks too late, because at the time the world had closed down. And we kept thinking like it would be like March 22nd. We're like, okay, they said 2 weeks. The 30th is kind of 2 weeks. Well, I think we'll be all right. And then like the 28th, we're like, should we cancel this? I don't think anything's opening. And we ended up canceling the show. And that was back to square one, right? I couldn't do these shows anywhere. There wasn't a great place to live stream it. And in the back of my head, I kept thinking about, okay, I knew what Blab was. I knew the power of Blab. I know that being live in front of people was something that's very special that you don't get when you're just face to face on a recording on a Zoom call. So I was like, okay, there's got to be like some sort of weird middle ground. And I started thinking of this infinite seat theater concept where, and I presented this at Podfest at 2020 in Origins. And it was very well received. And it's this concept that I could have a small space. I don't need a big auditorium or a theater space. But if I could have room for like 40 people, and in that room, I was surrounded by cameras that could live stream to people all over the world. In theory, this little 40-seat theater has the same capacity as Madison Square Garden. So I could have a 20,000 person event with sitting in front of 40 people. And that's where the Padooty concept that we're talking about, the theater that I opened, that concept really comes from the failure of Blab and COVID. Really, like, how do I perform in front of people? Because a lot of people do podcasts in their basements or their home studios, and we're on Zoom calls or Riverside or StreamYard. And those are great ways to connect, but you don't get that face to face. You don't get the real life audience in front of you. So when you can have a small little audience, maybe 20, 30 people, and you have maybe 20, 30 people online, it's this perfect mix of entertainment and, education and community building. It's mixing all these things together, and it all becomes this one beautiful new piece of content where it's small enough that you probably know most of the people because they're mostly local. A lot of times it's friends and family are going to be there supporting you. And the people on the stream are your biggest fans. So it's like this celebration of your podcast. It's taking something that you couldn't do in your home studio in your basement and making it something more, something bigger, something tangible. Because the one thing we have noticed is when you tell people, hey, I'm going to take my podcast, I'm going to be on the main stage at the Padooty Podcast Theater on December 31st, New Year's Eve. I booked you for New Year's Eve. If you say that to people, all of a sudden they understand that. A lot of your friends and family probably know you have a podcast, and they're graciously supportive. Like, oh, that's nice. Okay. Yeah. And sometimes maybe at Thanksgiving, you pull out their phone and you just subscribe and you don't tell them on their phone. When you tell them you're going to be on the main stage,
yeah,
they understand that and they want to come support you. They know that they can come out for a night and maybe it's $5 or $10 to support you. And it really elevates your show to new levels. I think I gave you like a 10-minute answer on that one.
I love it. And I can totally see it. And I'm laughing. I was laughing because I have I have a couple of messenger groups. One is my Thai family throughout the United States or North America. And every once in a while I'll go and, hey, nobody's left me a review yet. Can you all, leave me a rating, review? Can you please subscribe? Even if you're not going to listen, at least do something to help me out here. And yeah, sometimes they do. And they start listening for a little bit and then they forget. Their lives get busy, or they need to listen to stuff that their kids want to listen to, or whatever the case may be. I love the idea of being live in two senses, because live has changed a little bit. Right now, online is live in so many ways. Like, I hold live class sessions for my online students at USC. Well, all that means is we meet on Zoom for 90 minutes. But getting that energy rush from being in person, plus having people who are really the fans and listeners and supporters of the show, that must feel so good. It must be such a rush.
Yeah, the best way I can explain it, if you've ever watched Star Trek or seen that scene where they're like, hey, beam me up, and they're maybe on Earth and they have to go up to the ship, and there's that room where you're connected to the people on the ground, you're connected to the people in the ship, and probably the people like in the control room. Well, when you get on the stage that you can see behind me, for those of you watching, this stage is like that portal in Star Trek. You're sitting there, you're in front of people in the audience, they're reacting to you, laughing, they're asking questions. Then you're being recorded to people all over the world, and they're leaving comments, they're interacting. You can pull them up on stage. Behind the curtain is a TV. So my guests could be virtual while I'm on the stage in front of the physical people in the audience. So now it's become this portal where you're connected to people in real time, the people around the world. You're on the center of the stage, and you're interacting. The people at home can ask people in the audience questions. The people in the audience can answer. They can ask you questions. It's this whole like thing that just happens because you're on the stage with all this connectivity.
Amazing. What are some of the ways that this has changed your life? Because you do, like you mentioned, you do have other priorities. You have family, you have your work in automotive as a digital marketer, and then you have this creative outlet. But it also, I'm sure, there has to be monetization, engagement, a lot of other things behind it to help you keep it going.
Yeah, I also have this thing like where I don't stop. I have a problem like I'm always going and I can't. So like having this idea in the back of my head for all these years and presenting it and talking about it really was like, I got to figure out if this is a real thing or not. And when I turned 48, I gave myself 2 years. I'm like, let's just figure this out. When you're 50, if it's going to be something, you'll kind of have a hint of it by then. But it either is or it isn't. If it isn't, you're done. You know for sure you can go on with your life without regret. Like you really tried it out. But there's something so much bigger than what's here, like what I've created, and the way that it's changing lives, the way that it's giving people like new hope. It's showing people a new form of entertainment. It's showing people like the importance of community and getting out of your house and getting off the phone and doom scrolling on TikTok all night and connecting with people who have like ideas, who have the same thoughts as you, or maybe the same sense of humor. It's so much bigger than just me and my little podcast studio, my little podcast theater. There's so much happening here that I'm just in love with it. And having this as this outlet, I'm producing more shows than ever now. I do an interview show. I do a news show about live podcasting that's recorded live. It's very meta. I do the trivia show. So I'm doing these things as an outlet, but now I'm sharing this passion with people. So I'm in love with it. So I don't know what I'm going to do or go with it in 5 to 10 years, but I've started something and it has roots and the snowball is gaining momentum.
Wow. So talk to us a little bit about Padooty, and because I think you mentioned other people's shows also coming on stage there.
Oh yeah. Yeah. This isn't just for me. The thing that I shine the best at is producing. Like I love when I'm behind, there's a curtain over here that you can't see. That's my little control room. I'm producing, I'm putting slides up on the screen. I'm monitoring levels and I'm doing all the editing. I'm doing a real-time edit. And I've had magicians, I've had fundraisers for pet shelters. We've had anime podcasts, storytelling, ghost podcasts. All these things are happening. And this is like this crossroads of entertainment of these small independent acts that are coming through and performing their show, thinking about podcasting completely differently. There's a whole different math, I think, involved when you start talking about live events and live shows compared to this gold standard of host read ads. Like I just want to do host read ads, make a podcast and do host read ads. And I show you the math and I'm like, live might be the right way to go. We're chasing this idea that we're just going to read ads on our podcast and make money. I think there's a better way. I think there's a much more fun way to do it. And there's a way to do it that's profitable much more quickly than trying to get to this idea of host read ads.
Interesting. So walk us through that. You charge people to come watch the show live. So people, for the live audience, usually you want to have a following in that area, or you want to be from greater Pennsylvania, even if people are willing to drive to see the show. And do you also charge people in the virtual audience?
Yeah, so it's all customizable. And you're right, local is better for the in-person audience. One thing that we do struggle with is if you come in from Florida or Nevada, you're passing through, you're here with a family vacation. If these smaller podcasts that, maybe get 500 to 2,000 downloads on average per episode, they probably don't have a stronghold in Pittsburgh. So it's hard to sell local tickets for smaller acts in Pittsburgh at this point. As more people understand that this is a form of entertainment and more local people start to pick up on what's happening here, like a comedy club, like people go out, just, they'll try out a new comic to listen to comedy, just to do something for a night out. And I think that's going to happen with podcasting over time. But if you come in from Nevada, you're probably not going to sell many tickets. You'll do better virtually. And so we have private links. So if you did buy a ticket, you could buy the in-person ticket. And it's typically like around a $10 ticket. And the virtual ticket, we usually do around $5. And if you do buy the ticket, you get emailed a link. It's a private streaming link that you can watch on. And then you get it for 7 days after, too. So if you missed it because you had to go grocery shopping or you just forgot, you can re-watch the show for up to 7 days. And if you were in the theater, this is one of the cool things, you also get a link to the stream when you're in person. If you wanted to get up and go to the restroom or go next door to the bar and get a pint and some, fried mushrooms, you could literally pull up the show on your phone, walk over, order your beer and your appetizer, come back and not miss the show at all. So there's a little bit of connectivity here that you get as a bonus when you do come to the theater.
Is this theater, is it always set up for you? Like, is this something you own? And, because I imagine that also was an expense that you had to bear.
Yeah, so I am renting. I don't own the building that I'm looking at, or that you see behind me, that I'm looking at as well. But the everything in it is stuff that I've pieced together over months. Like, and I'm very bootstrappy. Like, I will find a bargain. Like these chairs, we were at a Catholic school that was closing, and I said, hey, they had 100 chairs. I said, oh, I'm looking for chairs. And at the time, I didn't have a building. I didn't know what size I would need, but I saw 100 chairs was a good deal. And they're like, well, we don't know what we want for them. Why don't you make us an offer? And I figured I was pricing chairs, and chairs like that sell for $40 to $60 a piece when they're brand new. So I said, I don't know. I thought I was lowballing. I said, how about $250? I'll take all 100. And they said, deal, without hesitation. So I think I could have got them cheaper, but it was a donation at the same time. So it went to their charities, everything that they sold off. So, to get 100 chairs for $2.50 a piece, that was a steal. And we have like one of those auction sites around here where it's called MacBid, and they buy all the Amazon returns and, truckloads of stuff. And so I started buying stuff through auctions, and I got pipe and drape. I got so many things of pipe and drape, which were normally like $180. I got them for like $40. So all these little things, when you come in the theater, I'll tell you all the MacBid stories of all the stuff we got just through returns, like Amazon auctions. And it really is bootstrappy. So while you do see a lot of stuff, I didn't spend a lot, which is good. Like, I'm also very frugal. They call me Frugal Jeff. And so this is going to be a little side tangent here. And it's funny. It's a funny story. Like, if you have a Spotify on your phone, at the end of the year, they give you your year in review. They say, hey, you listened to, 24 days worth of music or something. Well, at the year I was doing this, I bought so much stuff from MacBid to build the theater that I got a year in review from them. And it said, like, the retail value of all the stuff that I purchased, the chairs, the pipe and drape, the tables, was like $6,500. But the amount that I ended up paying was like $700.
Amazing.
So, I got stuff for like 90% off of retail. So I was able to do a lot more because of how terrible Americans are at shopping and returning everything. I was able to really, furnish the theater at rock bottom prices.
Have you thought about using that as a model, like selling theater in a box to people who want to replicate this around the country or the world? Yeah,
that's the one question I get a lot. And that's the one thing that people in the tech space keep talking to me about. Like, they said, you built something here that's different. I mean, from start to finish, I control the entire process. So if you had an idea, I would build the landing page. I can facilitate the ticket sales. I can produce and record the event for you. And then I can do the payouts at the end of the night, all one business. So there are ways that we could streamline it if we owned all the software pieces in between. So, there is opportunity. So proving this as a business model, as a viable, I want to see people starting to copy this model. So I'll tell people exactly what I do, how I do it, because I want to see a Paduti in Cleveland and in Baltimore and in Cincinnati, so that we can start doing these small little tours. Like, okay, this weekend I'll be in Erie, and next weekend I'll be in Cincinnati, and all powered by the same software that from start to finish. So that's my goal, like to get people to copy this so that it becomes more of a thing. And as it becomes more of a thing, then maybe the software piece fits into all of that. Then Paduti starts the franchise.
Amazing. Well, we should talk about bringing you out to do something on the USC campus.
Okay. Yeah.
Where I have a podcast course that I teach.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
I'd
that'd
be
be really
honored.
fun. Yeah. Now, your kids, have they gotten involved in your business?
My oldest daughter helps me out a lot. She'll say I don't pay her enough. And, and she's in college now. She's studying radiation technology.
Wow.
So in between, and that's a lot of study. And in between all of her studying, she'll come down and help me check people in on event nights and, take off to go finish studying. My youngest isn't so into it yet, but she'll also help out around. She'll help clean up and, pull the garbage and stuff and keep the place looking good. She's very nice and meticulous, so it helps keep me organized.
Yeah. And are either of them interested in the future in carrying on the tradition, having a podcast of their own?
No, not yet. I think they like to consume media more than produce it. They're not at the point where they're just for me, it's always because my mind is stirring and I'm thinking of new things and creative. So I need an outlet, or else I'll just bottle this all up until I just sit in a chair. I have to get it out. So for them, they're still young. They have their friends. They're running around, going to football games, and she's a cheerleader, so she's cheerleading and modeling and all these other things that they're doing. They're busy, but maybe as they get older, we'll do a father-daughter podcast.
Nice. Yeah, that could be fun. Where do you see podcasting going? Do you see more of this kind of hybrid in-person and live stream becoming more and more popular? Do you think, because I know we're in a time when people feel a little disenfranchised and people do want togetherness.
Yeah, I 100% think that the model that I'm building is the future of podcasting. I talked a little bit about the math earlier. If I could just real quick, I'll do the numbers. I don't know if this is a numbers podcast, but when we talk about host read ads, the typical podcast rate, I'm just going to use $20 per 1,000 downloads. That's pretty average, $20, $25. But let's say you get to 1,000 downloads and you want to do some ads. You read an ad, you can get about $20 per 1,000 downloads, about 2.5 cents per listen, right? It's not a great model. But the problem is when you look at server logs from Buzzsprout, from Libsyn, 90% of podcasts in a month, their episodes don't reach 1,000 downloads. On average, they're under 1,000 downloads for 90% of people. So 90% of people are chasing this idea that I'm going to read ads on my podcast. I'm going to make all this Joe Rogan money, right?
Right.
Well, the numbers don't suggest that. The numbers suggest that you're going to struggle to make $20. When you look at what I'm building here, and I'm building this for the 90% for the smaller podcasters who don't have giant audiences, who want to do something fun out of the box and create an event, an experience, a memory. For those people, the way that my business model works, if you were to sell 4 tickets, and we talked about $10 tickets, 4 times 10, $40. If you had a show at my place, the way the business model works, there's no contract, there's no minimum guarantee. We split the door at the end of the night, 50-50. So for the 4 people that came to see you, you just made $20. You get half of that $40. So 4 people in real life are equal to 1,000 people downloading your podcast. It's 200 times more valuable to have somebody watch you in person. And it's much more achievable for 90% of podcasters who don't get 1,000 views to get 4 people to a theater than to get 1,000 people to download your podcast. So what I'm pushing for is, let's think about what we're doing. What are we chasing? Why is this goal? Why is the carrot in front of us, this host read ads? We're going to make all this money from reading ads. You might not, and that's okay. And I'm not saying that to discourage you. I'm saying there's other ways that we can do this. We can have a lot of fun. We can get out of our houses together as a community and just enjoy our company, enjoy hearing different thoughts, different perspectives, different jokes, hearing different things that we wouldn't normally hear, just thumbing through an algorithm that feeds us what we want to hear. So there's so much more to this live podcasting. It's so much more achievable for most podcasters that I just think that this type of model is the future. You still get the video recording. Yes. You still get the audio recording. You're still making a podcast, but you're doing it with other people. It becomes an activity, an event, a celebration. That was a pretty good speech. I like that speech. That turned out pretty good.
It did turn out. It turned out really well. Yeah. Luckily, I'm happy to give you a copy of this, and you can repurpose
I can't believe I thought of that. Yeah.
Well, this is really fantastic. I love what you're doing, the energy you're putting out into the world, the creativity you've put behind and intentionality behind everything you've done in your career. So thank you for bringing that to us today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Of course. And Jeff, do you have a favorite quote, mantra, verse, poem, family motto?
Can I have two? I said one already, so it doesn't count. I said no one cares. And I mean that in a positive way. If you're someone like me who was hung up on yourself and you think that you're not good enough or that you don't need to put yourself out there, I promise you no one's thinking about you as much as you're thinking about you. No one's thinking about you in the way that you're thinking about you. Just get it out there. Put it out there. You will be so relieved to know that people are thinking about themselves. They're not thinking, and that's good. And the other one is a Bon Jovi quote. I always like this quote, this one. It's "Don't bore us, get to the chorus." And Bon Jovi would say that in reference to his most popular songs, almost always started off with the main hook, the chorus. And so I tell podcasters that don't open your show with your trip to the grocery store or the price of eggs or, like whatever happened. Your laundry machine broke. You had to call a repairman. If your show is about marketing, they didn't come in to hear you talk about your washing machine. Now, you might have that relationship with your audience, but if you're just starting out, tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them. Keep it to that format. Don't bore us, get to the chorus. They're here for a reason. They clicked on your title, your thumbnail. Give them that. That's what they came for. You can build that relationship, but don't bore us, get to the chorus. Thank you, Bon Jovi.
And thank you, Jeff Revilla. That was highly entertaining and engaging. And when you talked about nobody cares or get over it, get over yourself, that's a piece of advice that I've always given people in PR too, is that people care about the message that you have to give. You have a message and you want to share it. So you have to not worry about those beginnings. And when we start out as podcasters or start out being interviewed by people, we're not very good at it. Let's be frank. I don't know anyone. It's a skill you have to develop over time. And even then, if you can get rusty or things can happen that throw you for a loop, but you just have to do it. You just have to get in there and realize that it is about the message and the wisdom and things that you can impart, things that people wouldn't have thought about. I don't know. I mean, your idea is very unique. Obviously, you see it or hear it with This American Life sometimes, or like when NPR has done live shows or something and then turned their live audience stuff into radio. But for the everyday person, which is most of us who are doing podcasting, you're offering something unique and needed. So thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, you can walk off the street onto the stage, have your recording done, and then leave. And it's really turnkey. And the big goal is to take the risk out of it for the creator, so that you can come and do a show and just have a good time. That's why it's called Padooty. Lots of fun. Padooty. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you to everybody who is listening to this episode, has been as entertained as I have been, while also getting highly valuable information. Many times we talk about AI, we talk about digital media on the show, we talk about SEO, and obviously, Jeff, we didn't even talk about that side of what you do. But ultimately, we all still need connection with each other, and we need to figure out ways to form better connections. So that's something that you're doing. It's something that we all should be thinking about. And thanks to everybody who's watching this episode, listening to it. Leave us a rating review. Check out Jeff's multiple. We'll have to figure out what links to put in the show notes to make sure that we have a main source of truth for you. But check out Jeff's work. Get in touch with him, especially if you live in Pennsylvania, you have a podcast, or you're thinking about starting a podcast. Start it on his stage. See what you can do. Thanks for listening or watching to this episode of Your Brand Amplified. Don't forget to leave us a rating or review on your favorite podcast listening platform. And if you want to learn more, check us out at yourbandamplified.com.